Reality television has been a staple of modern society since its inception. From the very first Ted Max's original Amateur Hour, to The Real World, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, reality television has become one of the most financially successful subsets of the entertainment industry, garnering loyal viewership from hundreds of millions of viewers worldwide. One of the reasons behind this success is that the industry has become quite the stomping ground for larger-than-life personalities. Among these characters, drag queens have continued to appear time and time again, their liminality and inherent theatricality allowing them to pop up in often would-be conservative media, such as Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes' characters in To Wong Fu, or Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon's characters in Some Like It Hot. In recent history, the world of drag has been changed forever by self-proclaimed supermodel of the world, RuPaul Charles, and his Emmy Award-winning reality television series, RuPaul's Drag Race. The show is currently on its 12th season, including 3 All-Stars seasons, and has launched the successful careers of over 100 drag queens from across the United States. However, behind all of this success is a meticulous production team that takes a dozen young, often clumsy queens, and turns them into fabulous characters that audiences love or love to hate. Drag queens in and of themselves are liminal beings insofar as they perform a gender, and often present in fashionable looks of their own design, devoid of distinguishable gender entirely. So, drag queens are theatrical beings. Now throw 12 of them in a room void of contact with the outside world, away from vices, significant others, loved ones, and put them through absurd challenges and oh honey! You've got a recipe for some exciting television. The production team of RuPaul's Drag Race manufactures every moment and plot point of every season with great care. The format of competition-based reality television shows has been honed constantly since its birth in the 1940s, yet RuPaul and his creative team have managed to cross over divides in terms of format, genre, racial and gender barriers, and so much more. However, as much as Drag Race has helped evolve modern television into a slightly more inclusive space, it's also starting to become one of the most produced reality shows on television. In this video, we'll explore some of the ways in which the plot of the show is significantly altered by the production team in the editing room, and ultimately prove that a lot of the shade on RuPaul's Drag Race is very much manufactured.
The ultimate shade of it all.
The world of Drag Race exists within a manufactured, very heightened version of reality. From the elaborate dressing rooms to the decked-out runway stage, the production team goes out of their way to create heightened and entertaining scenarios. However, they go much further than this to ensure the success of the season. Many queens who have participated on the show in the past have spoken out about the almost unbearable limitations the production team puts on them, from keeping contestants in the dark when they're not on camera.
I'm in a hole somewhere in a studio, I think in Hollywood.
They took us off the plane and blindfolded us, so nobody would know where the girls are.
I have no clue where I am, but I'm excited to be here.
To controlling practically every element of their daily lives.
I don't have a phone, I don't have internet.
So they told me I'm not allowed to open the blinds.
This is the Hunger Games of drag.
With these being only some of the many rules in place, Drag Race runs quite a tight ship. Not to mention that being nightlife entertainers, many of the cast members suffer from various substance abuse issues, judgment aside, but being only permitted to have 1 cocktail per shoot day can be extremely trying for some of the more reliant participants. Putting all of these stresses on the cast and then pitting them against each other in absurd challenges is a recipe for drama. Tensions run high, fights break out, and the producers can cash that check right to the bank.
But that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of fucking money.
But let's be real, monetizing on drama is far from a new concept. From the original days of candid camera in the 1940s, people have always sought to find new and better ways to make money in the entertainment industry, according to Bill Gutentag.
Television basically is about one thing, and one thing only. It provides a life support system for the commercials.
This makes a lot of sense considering that a majority of the show's income often comes from this commercial time. According to a Nielsen statistic, the average 30-second commercial on primetime broadcast television cost $112,000 in 2017, with top shows billing upwards of $400,000 for 30-second spots. So, it makes sense that producers, on a logistical level, are looking for content that audiences will consume to fill the space in between these lucrative 30-second bites. The prospect of millions of dollars in ad revenue often results in producers going to potentially unethical lengths, all in order to create compelling television that will keep their viewers watching, even if it means totally fabricating situations sold off as quote-unquote reality. In the words of Gutentag.
And the truth is, nearly all reality shows aren't particularly real. The conceits, the casting, the shooting, the editing, the storytelling, they're not intended to serve as beacons of light and truth. They're intended to make the audience stick through to the next set of commercials.
On Drag Race, as well as several other contemporary reality TV shows, they go a step further in the alteration of reality by implementing confessionals into the framework of their program. These confessionals allow for rewriting to be done after the fact in the editing room. These segments are usually filmed after the contestants are eliminated, and will often come across as a lot more rude or shadier than they might be in normal circumstances.
She was like, what the fuck, what am I supposed to do for this one?
Sometimes Drag Race will go even further, using single words or generic reactions out of context to create storylines, such as,
I smell a star.
Girl, what?
Okay. Liza Minnelli, lies.
Going back to Gutentag.
These shows frequently use what are called Frankenbites. And a Frankenbite are sound bites that are taken out of context, statements from the participants by stealing a word from here and 2 words from there and then artificially constructing these sentences and putting them over neutral footage. These manufactured sentences are presented on screen as if the person on screen has said these words, when in fact, often they haven't said these words.
Drag Race uses these Frankenbites to create drama out of sometimes sparse content. At the same time, many of the show's Frankenbites are the very words and phrases that have gained the show so much of its popularity. Through memes, GIFs, and fan edits, these Frankenbites have proved to be great stock reactions, applicable to most situations. On the show, there are countless instances when seemingly benign conversations are turned to look like arguments. This is most often done by cutting a judgmental reaction into a conversation that was very much out of context.
Poor thing. Seeing her get in her head and act crazy the way she does is funny.
I wish I would have been in there.
Bro, you didn't want to be there.
I would have took Coco's place. She said, "You fat bitch."
I would much rather been in there.
These Frankenbites allow the producers to create the plot lines that they want, and ultimately removes a lot of the authenticity from the reality experience. Most of the Frankenbites used in Drag Race come from confessionals. These cutaway-type interviews originated in documentaries. According to journalist Mark Grief, the more modern form of confessional as seen on Drag Race began in the People's Court, when, after pleading a case, litigants would give interviews with a court reporter, similar to interviewing an athlete after a game. Judge Judy was the one who decided to get rid of the court reporter and allow defendants to speak directly to the camera. These forms of interviews gained popularity in the 90s through shows such as The Real World, Survivor, and Project Runway. While confessionals have often been deemed a gimmick of reality television that does nothing more than reinstate plot points, they are a clear weapon of the Drag Race producers' remix arsenal and are hardly used sparingly. Even the sound effects used in the editing room greatly influence the tone of each episode. A prime example happened on the current season a couple weeks back. Fan favorite Trixie Mattel decided to impersonate RuPaul himself on the All-Stars 3 Snatch Game Celebrity Impersonation Challenge. Watch how the editors turned what many found comedic into what translated as a failed performance.
Well, Michelle, my balls are tucked so tight that I blacked out, fell down, woke up a second ago, panicked, and just wrote, now available on iTunes.
I'm glad you reminded everybody of that, but unfortunately that is not a match, RuPaul.
RuPaul, I wanted to congratulate you on your Hollywood star thing.
Oh, thank you so much, my dear. As we say in the industry, winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Cricket.
And here's a fan re-edit of the same performance, if it were edited favorably.
Oh, thank you so much, my dear. As we say in the industry, winner, winner, chicken dinner.
That's called it, yes.
This shows just how much of the plot of an episode can be altered after the fact. Similar to a laughing track, these positive and negative sounds are quite effective, and when used out of context, can sway the portrayal of action within the show. In addition to all of this, in recent seasons, since the show has seen so many years of success, contestants are now often observers turned participants. Because of this, many take time to analyze the way the show works and strategize everything from what to wear to what bite-sized catchphrases to use in order to get a favorable edit.
I could tell you every episode what the challenge was, who went home. I feel like I've cracked the code. I'm the next drag superstar because I've done my homework.
That Sharon and I knew what we were doing. Yeah, with like the whole Party City thing and everything. Like I remember like Sharon and I would talk like offset and like we weren't supposed to talk to each other. But we would be like, you know, they've never had a rivalry like this ever in the history of Drag Race. Really? And we were like, how cool would it be? And like to make it all the way to end, that would be so cool. And I mean, the producers don't want me to say that, but.
Despite what you think, this is far from discouraged. To quote RuPaul himself, "I was a child of television. I instinctively knew how to turn the volume up, how to pitch myself, and how to speak in sound bites. In short, I knew how to speak the language of television fluently." So it goes without saying that as Drag Race has moved through its many seasons, it has become more and more produced. From higher frequencies of Frankenbites to progressively flashier editing, Drag Race remains highly stylized, yet quite inauthentic. However, according to VH1 Executive Vice President Michael Hirschon, the plots and subject matter on reality television are still more authentic and engaging than its scripted dramas, claiming that the scripted content of today still goes by the police procedural format that has been repeated far too many times to count. And it can't be disputed, editing aside, that Drag Race still does provide entertaining television. Reality television has become an inherently produced genre, with audiences caring more about entertainment value than actual reality. And producers are very aware of this. Ultimately, the fact that much of the action on Drag Race is concocted by the production team is simply a reality. Should viewers stop watching because of this? Absolutely not. The show champions artists on the outskirts of counterculture who, prior to the show, had no sizable platform to speak of to showcase their work. So, if they come across as a bit of a villain as part of the cost of gaining hundreds of thousands of fans, well, that's just part of the gig. For Film Class Project, I'm David Cash.